As we sail into the picturesque harbor of Algiers, we recall that this was once the headquarters of the most atrocious band of pirates that ever haunted the seven seas. Even the United States of America was among the powers of the world which paid annual tribute to the pirate rulers of Algiers to prevent the capture of American vessels and the selling of American citizens into captivity. At one time, Uncle Sam actually paid $400,000 tribute to Algiers. This ended abruptly when Commodore Perry came over with enough ships to adjust the matter permanently. But piracy persisted with its ebb and flow until France took charge of the country over a century ago. In the Kasbah, we behold what is left of the palace fortress of the tyrants of the old Algerian pirate days, who claimed their share of the booty that each murderous seafarer brought home, whether it were plunder from sacked towns on European shores or weeping women from Italy, France, or Spain. Even today, we find in the Kasbah characters who hearken back to the thrilling era of Algerian piracy. Come on, life isn't that bad. Stick your chin up. That's it. Now smile. Good. But we must admit that there isn't much in the Kasbah to smile about. Sailing westward from Algiers, we drop anchor in the harbor of Casablanca, the largest city in Morocco, its population being over 450,000. It was founded by the Portuguese about 6 centuries ago, was captured by a Moroccan sultan in 1757, and ruled as an Arab stronghold until the early part of this century, when a war developed with France, which resulted in making Casablanca the principal city in the French protectorate of Morocco. So much for history. Now let us observe life as it is in Casablanca today. We are in the modern center of the city, where French influence has made a definite impression on the architecture as well as the traffic. The Institute of Physical Education is well founded, and the progress of spiritual development under the French regime is illustrated in the beautiful churches of Casablanca. Nevertheless, Morocco is fundamentally Arab as far as the majority of the inhabitants are concerned. Only in the larger cities, such as Casablanca, is there any noticeable portion of other peoples, and among them we find a conglomeration of Negroes, Jews, French, Portuguese, Spanish, and a scattering of British and Germans. The most notable event that has taken place here in recent years was the meeting between Winston Churchill and the late President Roosevelt. It was in this hotel that the famous leaders met, and it was in this house that Roosevelt resided while in Casablanca. Far from the madding crowd, we visit the lowly estate of a humble Arab family, which provides an interesting contrast with the European dwellings of Casablanca. The patriarch of the family approaches us a little timidly at first, but he soon succumbs to our presence and greets us cordially. Family life among the Arabs is bound with strong ties, and although most of the people live frugally, they appear to be reasonably contented in this part of the Arab world. We tried to get this youngster to leave his shady nook and join us, but he refused to budge. In fact, he answered our invitation with a horse laugh. After a brief visit with our Arab friend, we shake his hand in farewell and continue our journey northward, a distance of about 50 miles from Casablanca, and eventually arrive at Rabat, formerly a center of piracy, but now a residential town with a fairly large European population. Although Morocco is a French protectorate, it is governed theoretically by a sultan who resides at this palace in Rabat. The sultan's guards present a colorful front for the palace, even though military discipline doesn't appear to concern them nearly as much as the cigarettes we gave them. In the native market, we find a picturesque conglomeration of people and products, pungently flavored with an odoriferous atmosphere, which fortunately our cameras have never been able to photograph. It has been said that seeing is believing, but in our opinion, hearing and smelling are necessary to complete what we see. With the places go the faces, and here is one that doesn't look too friendly, but a smile is the same in all languages. Here may be purchased anything from live fish to rugs, leatherwork, brass articles, and French postcards. And here's the native bus, just in from heaven knows where, with a typical load of people and things. Generally speaking, the main roads in Morocco are in a fair state of repair, and they lead from Casablanca like spokes on a wheel to an orbit of cities, outstanding among which is Marrakech, situated about 200 miles south of Casablanca. Here, too, the influence of the French is manifested in the architecture, but the native people still live their lives in apparent disregard of European manners and customs. In all of Morocco, there is no finer hotel than the Mamounia at Marrakech, and it is here that visitors from the outside world usually gather. The gardens around the hotel are particularly colorful, and they provide an interesting contrast with the Arab world that is just over the garden wall. Returning to the native life in Marrakech, we are soon rubbing shoulders with a bewildering mass of humanity that seems to be as far apart from us as we are from the moon. It is customary at the close of day for the local Arab population, along with thousands of Arabs from outlying districts, to gather in the main square for a grand reunion such as we see here. Every circle has its own attraction, including medicine men, jugglers, and fakers of every kind and description. The most popular circle appears to be the one in which the magician performs. How does he do it? Note that he shows the balls he seems to be taking from his mouth in the palm of his hand each time he does it, thereby creating a double illusion. All this, of course, provides unfading amusement for a gullible audience, from which the magician may occasionally receive a small gratuity by way of appreciation. And so life goes in this exotic part of the world, where Europeans and Arabs are engaging in an age-old struggle for human understanding. And it is here that we conclude our glimpses of Morocco and Algiers.